Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm Farooq Patafi. Viewers, Sana Makbool is the regular host of this show. I am only an analyst attached to this program, but because she is traveling internationally this week, you're stuck with me. So we are going to talk about the Prime Minister's visit to China. Prime Minister Anwarul Haq Kakar has arrived there, and he's going to participate in third Belt and Road Forum. Just to recap, it is important to remember that Belt and Road Initiative actually covers somewhere around 150 countries in the world. That is 75% of world population. That is 75% of world's countries. So it is a great, possibility, a visit full of possibilities. He is going to attend there. He is going to interact with various office bearers as well. And remember that because CPEC is the flagship project of BRI, it becomes very important for Pakistan to be there. And the Prime Minister is going to exploit the moment to the fullest. Other participants that are expected to participate include Russia's President Putin and various other important dignitaries. Just also to remind you that when the first forum took place in 2017, at that time, the age of Donald Trump was dawning in America. And at that time, it was primarily Narendra Modi's India which had boycotted the forum. And after that, America also came under pressure, and somehow it seemed that it is going to be some kind of Cold War kind of competition between China and America for influence. India, as a result, has come up with its own project, and unfortunately, it is a damn squib. Adani Group's projects all over the region have been expanding, and we know how economically challenged that company itself is. So we are going to talk about what to expect from Prime Minister's visit, and we are going to ask what it means for the future of CPEC. You know that propaganda against CPEC has been going on for quite some time, especially because India is very unhappy and has dedicated a lot of resources to this propaganda and other violent means to derail it. We are going to talk about all these matters and more. In order to help us understand, in the studio, I'm joined by Mohammad Umar Farooq, who's a senior analyst. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. You look very young to me. I don't know why they have written senior, but thank you very much for being part of the program. We are also joined on Skype by Ambassador G.R. Baloch, who is a career diplomat. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. And Brigadier retired Waqar Hassan also joins us, who's also a senior analyst. Let me start with you, G.R. Baloch, sir. Your take on the importance of this visit and what to expect, sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I think I would formally I would say it's a great opportunity for our Prime Minister, the interim Prime Minister, to first of all take part in this very important gathering of 150 countries who are participating in the Belt and Road Initiative summit, the third summit that is happening. With that, having said that, I think we've got to see that how BNR is changing the geoeconomics and geostrategy of the world globally. Obviously, this is a decisive initiative by China to really realize that dream of a multipolar world where there is kind of win-win situation, the strategy that they have been always advocating, even in their bilateral relationships, and especially when they were offering these projects under the BNR. That was the basic foundational principle that it is a win-win philosophy which should guide us when we are deciding about the nature of the projects, the timeline of the projects, and the priority of the project. And if we look at Pakistan, of course, there have been some problem in some of the countries. That's the kind of a business risk that every investor takes. But I think if we look at it, I think there has been a win-win situation in terms of look at our energy needs, Look at the infrastructure, the road network, and of course the crown and the jewel in the crown, the Gwadar port. I am of the firm belief that BNR, that is Belt and Road Initiative, without that CPAC, that is China-Pakistan corridor, and without Gwadar, cannot be realized. So, in a way, CPAC is kind of, it is indispensable for our. It is not complete. Let me just put in very simple words that our that road and belt initiative is cannot be complete without that. I think Chinese realize it, we realize it. The problem where I would also like to say that there has been a great deal of bad mouthing, bad media coverage on the overall Chinese initiative, but more to do with Pakistan. And unfortunately, some of our analysts, so-called doomsday scenario analysts, without knowing the pros and cons of this CPAC or the BNR, would kind of buy on the negative propaganda. I think, in a way, I would say that that has to be stopped. And I look forward to Prime Minister this visit to not only kind of get the first-hand knowledge and interact with those 150 countries which are there, but I think and it will go beyond symbolism of participating in a summit to tangible moving towards the next stage of BNR, because I believe that the first, second, and the third this summit essentially is to move to the next stage of BNR, where literally the fruits of this great investment, which I think runs into now about $500 billion all over the place, all over the globe, in all the regions, starting from Asia, Europe to Africa. They will start like reaping the fruit, that how to reap the fruit and to bring those advantages to the people of their respective countries, because that is the crux of the entire initiative, that how the common man benefits from this. And that is where
Absolutely,
I
sir.
think Chinese have been sincere in their efforts. I think Pakistan governments have been, successive governments have been successful, and especially now having kind of all stakeholders into one committee, where the one window that they have made it. I think we would see that
And
CPAC
Ambassador
moves
Saab,
in a
as
much
we
more
progress in
faster
the
way
program, we
and
are
in
going to
a
talk
more
about the importance of that
tangible way.
one window as well. Allow me to actually bring in Brigadier retired Waqar Hassan Khan Saab as well. Brigadier Saab, you have listened to Ambassador Saab. If you want to actually give your opening remarks regarding this important visit and what to expect from it, please do. In addition to that, there were certain security concerns in recent CPEC projects. If you like, you can also comment on them as well. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I think if you look at, I think Belt and Road CPEC remains its flagship project. And if you look at the early harvesting projects or the other strategic initiatives within CPEC, I think we are already done with the first phase. And in terms of infrastructure development, in terms of, I think, energy sector, then of course certain areas within urban areas like metros and Orange Line, etc. And then of course was the development of Gwadar deep sea port. So I think that has been successful and was showcased as the success story of the CPEC. Now, definitely, if you look at Afghanistan, which is bordering and which has also been offered, I think, by the Chinese and Pakistan to become part of the extension of CPEC and Belt and Road. There have been instability. Unfortunately, there were two superpower intervention, but more recent was the U.S. intervention for almost 2 decades. And I remember when they were there in the heydays, there was definitely Operation Enduring Freedom. And then I saw a map, of Pakistan, Iran, and Afghanistan with a line drawn west of Indus River, and it was termed as Operation Enduring Turmoil. I don't know. Somebody made it just for the uh, sake of fun, or they were really looking at it. So I think Afghanistan became a base for instability of the CPEC project. and Pakistan military, defense forces, law enforcement, and I think civilians in KP and Balochistan, they fought it out, and we were still able to, let it go through. And even the convoys have been flying from China to Gwadar, and Gwadar port is also functional. So I think security threats are there, but security mechanisms were placed despite a lot of pressure, because some of the Chinese engineers were targeted. Then, of course, there was a perception developed that probably the western route is not secure, and it was mainly definitely to communicate a message to China and Pakistan that they will not, the hostile agency, especially research analysis being, and we had proofs of, Kulbhushan Yadav enterprise, and then, of course, very recently, a lot of, like Gulzar Imam Shambe, they've been acknowledging. So I think you look at the overall security and completion of CPEC, it has been done in a record time despite losses of the security forces and some of the Chinese as well. And now we are looking at, further expansion in terms of agriculture, health, industry, and green energy. I think these are some of the 4 to 5 major agenda points, because now CPEC has to come into uh, the next phase. And definitely, these are the areas already identified by the SIFC also. So there's a convergence of, I think, thought process. So it means that when you're looking at agriculture, it's high-tech support, and of course, bringing a green revolution. The second green revolution in health sector, of course, there's a lot of scope. Industry, especially SMEDA, and then the green energy, which will be through basically solar power and hydel. Some of the, I think, projects are going to be completed. So all told, I think it's a success story. The only thing is that
Are
there was a lot
you,
of
Brigadier
propaganda.
Saab, are you expecting these breakthroughs during this visit? Can you hear me, Brigadier Saab?
Uh, can you speak a little bit louder?
Yeah, I was saying that do you expect these projects to be addressed during this visit, sir, or these are already agreed upon and now we are going to only see progress on them?
Yeah, I think these are already part of the memorandums of understanding. But if you look at the overall, because CPEC is not stopped as such, maybe there was a perception developed that probably there were dips during, let's say, different phases of different governments. But I think that is wrong. Yes, there were, I would say, if you look at the speed of launching early harvest and then the strategic projects, these were definitely completed within record time. I don't think so any major, let's say, project was delayed. Now, these 4 sectors are going to be basically discussed in the memorandums of understanding, but there is a serious thought process, and now we have to expand it to actually benefit the people of Pakistan, because we look at all these, like agriculture, health, industry, and green energy, it involves a lot of human resource, and other than definitely labor required for construction projects. But now we're looking at, mid-level and high-tech level coming into it. Then, of course, we have visit by
These are important
the
things which
Prime
are going to
Minister
bring in
to
Umar Farooq
Xinjiang
as well.
province, where I think is going
Then
to
we will
interact with
bring
the
in
university
Umar
students.
Farooq as
And
well.
Xinjiang,
I think
basically being the, I would say, the fountainhead of CPEC. If you look at Pakistan-China border, from where it's going to flow into Pakistan. Also going to, I think, offer prayer at the Grand Mosque in Urmukhi. So these are, I think, some of the gestures, because there's a perception that probably in Xinjiang there is oppression of Muslim. So I think this visit, especially at the end of the main, I think, forum, would at least, allay these perceptions. And also Xinjiang, if you look at GB, these are basically, I would say, sister states, and there's already a lot of trade and common culture. So it will, I think, definitely remove those perceptions. Also help
it will
Pakistan
also be an important
in
part of
explaining its
exposure.
case
Allow
to the
me to
people
come
of
to
this
the
great
studio.
state of China.
And MCR, if possible, kindly make it sure that my audio gets to Brigadier Saab as well. But coming to the studio, Umar Farooq Saab, your take on the importance of this visit and what exactly, in tangible words, to expect from the visit, sir.
Thank you, Tafsa, for inviting me to your program.
Yeah.
Actually, this third Belt and Road Forum is being hosted after the lag of 4 years. So there is significant, there is so much to expect from the PM's visit this time. But to add on to the Brigadier Saab and Ambassador's remarks, are we ready for to meet Chinese expectations?
What are those expectations, by the way?
So their expectations are threefold.
Yeah.
First is they want that the outstanding payments of Chinese IPPs, this issue should be resolved immediately.
Right.
And second one is one window operation.
Okay.
And I think that SIFC it's a good step taken by the incumbent government, caretaker government, and I think this SIFC will further synergize Belt and Road initiative.
So we are ready.
Yes.
Okay.
And the third is and the most important part is the security of Chinese investors. Let me give you an example. If you have $1 billion, will you invest that $1 billion in a country where you face the risk of your life and your money as well, or in a country where?
May I venture to answer that?
Sure.
If you have seen the quantum of Chinese investment in Africa, there are far bigger issues there. But that has never stopped them.
But that doesn't justify that.
No, I'm not justifying.
Yes.
I've recently been to Gawata, I've been to Balochistan, and I've seen various projects being protected. In fact, the complaint from the Chinese friends was that they are getting too much security, and that is marring their movement around, right? And that was something that was recently addressed also. That means that they are getting now the kind of security they expect. Why are we always so pessimistic?
Actually, there is a cultural issue here. Right. If in Pakistan you give someone security, and it means that you are giving him attention and you are preserving his life. But in China, if you go, you won't see any Pakistani investor be accompanied by a brigade of different soldiers.
No, I get that.
Right?
But you understand that that concern that you raised earlier is inverted, because now we know that they are getting the kind of security they needed, and it might be actually an overkill, so we had to step back.
Since CPEC is the flagship project, as everyone agrees, so any attack on CPEC installment or any attack on CPEC investors, that is highlighted in its fullest form by the international media, and Pakistan is projected as unsafe for investments. So that's why these threefold expectations of Chinese investors need to be agreed upon.
They have to be addressed. And I think that most of them are, right? So what else? Because you raised the question.
Yes, most of them are, but
ready?
On paper, not on
no,
actually.
Come on, I gave you my eyewitness account. Come on, what else can I do?
Actually, a few weeks ago, there were attacks on Gwadar.
Yeah, but no Chinese personnel.
But we have to be realistic here.
No, but hang on.
Yes.
This is the purpose of the enemies of the project, that they have to actually keep on making it look unstable. But did the attackers actually succeed in harming the Chinese personnel? No. Right?
Actually, the attackers' purpose is not to harm Chinese personnel. It's just to show the perception that Pakistan is unsafe.
So what else? We were talking about the importance of this visit. What else to expect from it?
Actually, 19 MOUs are being lined. And as per my information, 8 MOUs have already been agreed upon by the Chinese. So in different like DA Khan to Yob and ML1 agreement, Karachi Circular Railway. So there is much to expect from it.
Again, they are focused on infrastructure?
Yes, infrastructure. But there is one thing I have concern. Basically, CPEC's second phase was all about industrialization. But in these MOUs, there isn't a single MOU on technology transfer or factories transfer from China. So this needs to be addressed.
Right. Ambassador Jia Baloch, you have listened to our young participant. Your take on these concerns, sir, regarding security, regarding monies, and of course regarding transfer of technology?
Yeah, I think Pakistan is a very hard station for the investors, if I use this word, which normally we use in the diplomacy. That any country which is a bit hard in terms of its economy or its ecosystem, which includes the security, which includes the social and cultural harmony. So there are some issues, but we know what are the sources to these problems. There is a whole lot of ganging up of different regional and extra-regional forces to make sure that this negative perception is kind of projected. And that's what I said in my even opening remarks, that unfortunately some of our ill-informed or half-informed like as analysts, they buy on this media campaign. Yes, we have real problem in Balochistan, but this was prior to even CPAC, even prior to what I mean. We had this. I teach also Pakistan studies. So if you go back, uh, Balochistan has always been a place where people have been living in the tribal society. So to integrate them into this kind of new phase of economic and industrial development, we will find resistance. In fact, even in the British time, like construction of a road was a big problem for the tribal people there. I being a Baloch, I know why it was that they have their own justification, may have it, but this used to happen. So it is not something unusual that should like deter the Chinese. And I think now, initially they did have a problem that wherever we landed, but I think slowly and gradually they are understanding the culture, because I have interacted with the Chinese diplomats here, and they say, yes, we do understand your culture. We do understand there is a history of this kind of disputes and tribal problems in Balochistan. But I think leaving Gawadar apart, the rest of the area is very, very safe. But imagine when Afghanistan joins up. So I think Chinese are ready to come up with some solutions. The most important thing is that are we as a government, as a people, ready to resolve those problems? I think we are 110%. Each and every individual in Pakistan, whether whichever political party it is, agreed that this is intrinsically in our national interest, and that for the economic revival of Pakistan, CPAC is indispensable. That being the case, do we have another option? No, we don't have any other option but CPAC. So I think whatever we do, the state has come up with its all the resources, intellectual and physical, and infrastructure to make sure that there's a conducive environment for the Chinese investors. May it be the payment to the IPPs, or may it be the other facilitation within the area where they operate, are obviously the security. And we know that there's a special force for protecting the CPAC. So I don't think these are something, some obstacles which will kind of derail it or delay the projects. So I think we should be optimistic. I mean, we should look forward to Prime Minister's visit, which will definitely give impetus to the ongoing projects. He will be able to interact with the leadership of the Chinese leadership, as well as other peers. They might even, I mean, if I was there, I'm sure they must be doing it, to also exchange views with the other partners of a CPEC as to how to resolve all these issues. They're not peculiar to Pakistan. They are to, I mean, almost similar variety of problems are being faced all over the world. After all, 150 countries mean 150 cultures and backgrounds and historical different kind of people. So I think we should be optimistic on this, and these challenges should be seen in the proper perspective, should not be underrated, nor should be over-exaggerated.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Sir, for clarifying one very important aspect, and that is there is no mainstream sentiment against CPAC projects. The elements who keep on attacking various projects are essentially outliers, and they are essentially terrorist organizations that can be actually maimed and that can be crushed. So that will happen. Also, I wanted to point out regarding your comment on China understanding or Chinese personnel understanding Pakistani culture. I just wanted to point out that when I was in Gawada, I met with the Chinese security chief, and he is known as, has been around for 6 years, 7 years now, Jack Baloch. His last name now is Baloch. So they understand this culture pretty well. Let me go to Brigadier Waqar. Brigadier Waqar Saab, since the concerns about security were raised, your take also, sir.
I think important thing to note is that when it was launched, in fact, I think the initial phase of Gwardas started even, I think, in President Musharraf's time. Then we had a full-fledged war going on in Afghanistan, and despite CPEC was launched. So I think now, talking about security concerns, although there are issues, I think that will be just, doing it for the heck of it. So if you look at the launching of CPEC, the main part was during war on terror. So Chinese precisely knew your culture. They precisely knew what is the security threat. They knew that Americans are sitting in Afghanistan, a lot of hostile agencies like India, Research Analysis Wing, and there were 46 other countries which are not very friendly to China. Despite that, I think the bulk and billions of dollars were spent. And today, some of our friends are saying that if somebody's, let's say investing $1 billion, he's worried about all that. So I think they already knew the environment. And Pakistan, China, despite losses, sacrifices, I would say, by the Chinese and Pakistanis, and we have, I think, a history of Karakoram Highway. You know how many engineers and soldiers lost their life to make this road of friendship. So I think, in terms of commitment, both sides are very, very clear. Yes, there is a perception. I'll just try to equate you with this so-called India, Middle East, Israel, Europe corridor. Just imagine that you have a container which is, loaded from Mundra port, and then of course it is offloaded, again loaded on a train in Dubai, offloaded at, Haifa in Israel, and then loaded. So you have 6 or 7, and not, everybody knew when they were talking of this corridor that it's going to pass through Israel, which is a conflict zone. It's a conflict zone for, last 75 years. But nobody talked of insecurity. Now, only I think when the Hamas came in, and they had started burning, I think the entire perception about this corridor being a viable corridor is being questioned. But otherwise, whosoever has conceived it probably knew these are the challenges. So same is true for Myanmar. There is a corridor of China, Myanmar, which also passes through a lot of conflict areas, like the Chin states. Even the Indian passes very close to India northeast, where you have an active war going on. So and even Chinese initiatives which were passing through Russia, Ukraine, and going to Europe, there is a war going on. So I think despite all that, we are not in a bad, situation. And there was also a perception of Chinese debt trap, which was built, comparing with Hamad. I think it's the host nation which is allowing the Chinese investment to ensure that the investment is rightly spent, and then definitely it brings in prosperity for the people, human resource development. So it's entirely your own choice. I think we should not be blaming the Chinese for that. Definitely, looking at second phase, is going to go into those areas where we have industrialization, capacity building, and China also needs it. If you look at the competition of corridors, like India, Middle East, Europe corridor, it's a challenger to Chinese market and its access to rest of the world. So it's a challenge. So I'm sure CPEC will actually get more importance. Even the Russian north-south corridor, which is going to pass through Iran and the Gulf and maybe into Indian Ocean, is also kind of competitor. So, and imagine Chinese are doing investment in Afghanistan, which is not stable like Pakistan. There are a lot of issues that passes through very difficult terrain. So I don't think so. There's the issue of culture or let's say understanding each other or the environment. If there is a will, I think things would be, and I'm sure after this visit, you will find, I think, definitely very positive news coming from China. And that's why I think the Prime Minister is there and is going to meet. There are going to be bilateral meetings also. They're going to meet with the Chinese top business community and the giants. So I'm sure we're looking at IT. And Pakistan is a very big market. So almost 250 million. So it's almost closer to Europe's entire population, which is like 300 million. we are a huge market, and time we, I would say, downplay our capacity, capability, and perception.
Absolutely. Let me come back to the studio. Omar Farooq Saab, you have listened to the answers.
Yeah.
And then let me also point out this whole imputation, it continued for quite some time that there is debt trap and somehow countries are working into it. But then I went to Sri Lanka, and that is like 5, 6 years ago. At that time, the airport that is situated, 22 kilometers away from the capital city, I was told that the one single two-lane motorway there, only 22 kilometers, costed somewhere around 24 billion rupiah, right? With that kind of money being made, of course, then the countries actually walk into traps because they are creating traps by themselves. Do you think that we can avoid that loophole, that failure, so to speak, and then continue actually building on the capacity?
You mean in Pakistan?
Yeah, yeah.
So the notion is of debt trap is West.
No, I'm talking about corruption, not debt trap. I'm talking about the possibility of people actually not taking these projects seriously.
Actually, CPEC is actually a household name in Pakistan.
Yeah.
So corruption issue is different.
Yeah.
And that cannot be matched with the debt trap notion.
Yeah, but I just actually gave you an example of a country like Sri Lanka, right?
Yes, that.
And it was, by the way, Sri Lankans who were pointing this out, that the amount of borrowing that went on actually went on various kind of projects through which actually money kept on falling through the crack. That isn't the case in Pakistan. So what have we worried about? You want to answer that?
No, sir.
You don't want to answer that at all?
No, I don't want to comment on that.
Okay, right. Ambassador Saab, regarding the economic growth, so very important thing that we kept on hearing about SEZs, special economic zones, and we kept on anticipating that special economic zones will develop. I've visited a couple, and we haven't seen the kind of progress, we haven't seen that kind of start of investment from our side or the other side. When to expect that to start, sir?
I think this is the crux of the entire episode. That is our capacity and our preparedness. And this is where I think more than security, more than debt trap, I think the Chinese, if at all, are really annoyed or they kind of feel disenchanted with us is preparedness and our capacity to absorb the transfer of technology, to absorb the investment. So I think this is where the role of the government comes, that we must prepare an appropriate human resource, number one. Number two, appropriate infrastructure, and then a regulatory mechanism, which kind of the entire architecture under which and a conducive ecosystem where these new enterprises can go. Just let me point out that there is a lot of deletion of SMEs from China. And initially, when the CPAC was being visualized, this was one of the considerations that the Chinese, as they move on from SMEs to the next level of technology, all those industries will come to Pakistan and would be and these especially export processing zone will be made, and where these industries will be located. So I think what we need to do is to really bring in our private sector, who should be, I don't know, we can train them, we can motivate them, or maybe I think there has to be a reorientation or orientation program to be tailored by our Ministry of Industry, by Ministry of Commerce, and other specialists who can really train them, and of course bringing in the Chinese experts also, that to create that kind of a first of all, the orientation, is all about the concept, because Chinese concept of running an industry and our concept of running an industry kind of is different. we have unions, we have, all those tekadars in the factories, and so on and so forth. So I think what I saw, the deficit is in preparedness. Deficit is in our human resource. I think now is the time when the Prime Minister kindly returns. I think they under maybe again some kind of a special initiative where our human resource, right from the top management to the shift in charge, there should be some kind of a training. Even I would go on to suggest that maybe some of the people can be sent to China. Some senior management or mid ranking management, and the other, even the chief in charge supervisors, to see how the processes work, and then come and do those learnings, and then when these industries are relocated, are actually established afresh, they should be able to implement those good practices that the Chinese have been practicing for the last 40, 50 years.
And Ambassador Saab, that is a great idea. I think that our Chinese friends have been very generous in that kind of cooperation, and I think that if our side is willing, that cooperation will be provided. Two follow-up questions, sir. One regarding one window operation, the other regarding the preparedness, as you spoke about, of our private sector. One deficit that we see in our private sector is the deficit of R&D. So when our private investors don't have any idea what to invest in, how do you propose that changes? I haven't seen the government of Pakistan coming up with the right options for them to invest either. I haven't seen anyone actually explaining to them that you can invest in this sector or that. So how do you propose to change that? And the second one is regarding one window operation. I understand that after SIFC things are going to look up, but I was recently in Quetta as well, and I was told that any communication or any movement between Gawada and Quetta by road actually takes 1.5 days. So with that kind of concern, they wanted some kind of devolution, and in the end, we actually brought the one window operation to Islamabad rather than keeping it in Gawada. Do you think that there is a possibility of reconciling that kind of a situation as well, sir?
Are you, is it to me or to Brigadier Saab? किससे सवाल पूछ रहे हैं? Are you speaking to me? Is it a question to me, please?
Yes, sir.
मेरे से पूछ रहे हैं आप सवाल ये? Yeah, Brigadier Saab. I just give a short take, and then you can take on. Yeah, I think two quick answers. Yesterday, I was at a dinner where they were all businessmen of Karachi, right? Believe you me, they are so enterprising. They're so enterprising. You give them a new idea, and they will adopt it. So I think the missing link, in my view, in the CPAC is the business councils, these Federation of Chambers of Commerce and other specialized bodies, the trade bodies and industrial bodies. I think they need to be brought into the process where I'm talking the adaptability and innovation and coming up with the new ideas that which industry to go. You are right, because our industry is mostly family led. Whatever the father has done, the son is going to do, and his son is going to do. So that has to be, they have to be exposed, they have to be told, they have to be guided. And obviously, for the one window operation, definitely, I think it'd be a good idea if Islamabad and Gwadar can coexist. That has to be coexist in the sense that they should become like, there could be an ecosystem through the IT or whatever the case, that they can share the I just talking in technical terms, they should share the screen. I'm going to say something is being processed in Gawada, the gentleman sitting in Islamabad, either he's processing or the man in Gawada is. I think the IT should give us enough leverage to create that one window environment for export.
That is a great idea. Sir, that is a great idea. Let me very quickly go to Brigadier Saab. Sir, your take on these two questions, and if you want to add something more, sir, please go ahead.
important is to actually realize that the perception that is developed outside is not based on reality. And within Pakistan, I think there are a lot of people doing damage to Pakistan's own perception, whether it is the, let's say, quality of human resource, the resources available. Of course, there have been mistakes. Now, you look at the SIFC initiatives, mainly it is to address, the red tape, of course, and then, of course, smoothen basically business opportunities, and of course, focus on those areas I think already identified, like information technology, you have military hardware, mining, agriculture, and I'm sure SMEDA, and there are a couple of others. So, of course, it is based on what potential you have. Now, if you look at the economy, the time we downplay it, it's in terms of purchasing power parity. You can Google it, is $1.5 trillion economy. So that's the kind of potential is already there. The only thing is, if let's say you have 2 to 3% people paying taxes, I think now they have taken it to, 10 million, and everybody is feeling very happy that out of 250 million, 10 million will start paying taxes. So we have to address that also. But I think the main thing is to improve the perception. We are very fond of, I think, self-criticism, too much self-critical. And I've seen, Turkey, I've seen even Iran. I don't think there are problems there, yeah, or India. But I think the governments have finally decided that they have to, basically build up the morale of the nation and put it on a positive trajectory. Resources are there, human resource is very good. Programs are there. I think Pakistan is the graveyard of plans. Look at it. So basically, it's a positive outlook. If you look at youth, I think they are just looking for opportunity now also of basically academia, then feeding the industry. So I think that is one where the research which is required in those particular areas. Like if these are 5 areas of development, I think major universities should be going into research, and then you connect basically research being done in universities, then of course utilized by the industry. There's a huge potential, there's huge demand for Pakistani human resource. There are a lot of areas in the world where there's a deficiency. And then there are huge projects coming up in Middle East, like Saudi Arabia, they're building NEOM or, infrastructure, I think, and then look at Turkey is developing corridors. So even in Africa, so there's a lot of scope and demand for, the only thing is that how do you groom the human resource? I'm very positive about Pakistan. If you look at war on terror, in 20 years, we lost $200 billion. Nobody talks about it. Imagine that was available. So your economy would have been growing at 7 to 8% per year. Would have been the fastest growing. But then we had a neighbor, and there was war and then superpower sitting here, and we became, victim of circumstances. So I think all told, we are in the takeoff stage again, and nations can always, I think, regroup and move forward.
Thank you very much. On that positive note, we have to move towards conclusion. Brigadier Retired Waqar Hassan Khan Sahab, thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. G.R. Baloch Sahab, former ambassador, thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program as well. Very quickly, if you want to add something, Umar, please go ahead. One-liner or two-liners.
I want to comment that Brigadier Sahab mentioned that no one is talking about 200 billion loss in war on terror.
Yeah.
So actually, that's our failure. We don't have any think tank in Pakistan that projects our narrative to the Western media.
We have so many think tanks.
No, but if you search on Google, you won't find any think tank in the first 70.
Okay. Lesson learned. Thank you very much. I'm told that we have to conclude the program. Umar, Farooq, thank you very much for your precious participation as well. Viewers, you have listened to our participants. Ambassador G.R. Baloch actually came up with 2 or 3 very useful suggestions. One, regarding the preparedness of our industrial, base, that people can go to China and learn of a few things there, and then they can come back. And of course, we can go for technology transfer as well. Regarding Gwadar and Islamabad, one concern that I keep on actually identifying repeatedly, that you have to devolve rather than actually keep power moving upward. Then he talked about the importance of digital connectivity. When last time I was in Gwadar, there was an outage of internet, but these things can very easily be fixed. Let us hope in coming days we see that. And the forum itself and the Prime Minister's visit, there are two very important things that you have to remember. One, participation in this forum was very important, and it is going to have its fruits. And secondly, you'll keep on hearing people talking about competing values, that American sphere of influence and Chinese sphere of influence are in competition. That is no such thing. We have to remember and keep in mind that most of it is propaganda, and China and America have been investing in same countries, and they have been collaborating because they invest in different kind of infrastructure. Let us hope in coming days we build a more interdependent world rather than a Cold War world, right? This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.